Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's Shaar should be Le'ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gavriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, B'schos l'Refuah Shalema, Bekarov, Mishalom ben Sarachol, Miriam Bas Sarah, and Sarah Bas Esther Yachet. Now, today we are on page 337 in the Ora Vigdor, for those who are following along. Today we are starting a brand new chapter, Perek Hamishi, the 5th chapter in Shaar HaBitachon. And what this chapter is going to start out talking about is 7 differences between a person who has Bitachon versus somebody who lacks Bitachon today. And what that means is basically, when you walk around and you see people, it's not very clear who is the person who has Bitachon in Hashem and who is the person who needs a lot of help in working on their Bitachon. And you're going to see over here, Rabbi Victor Miller does a lot of commentary over here on this one. It's very, very interesting. One of the 7 differences, and we're going to get into just a handful of them at the beginning, maybe even the first 1 or 2. And what I want you guys to pay attention is really the big picture. The big picture of Bitachon is not a physical recognition. Bitachon is something that we spoke about yesterday and we've spoken about many times. It's something that we internalize. So when you have 2 people standing side by side, the way they look, you can't necessarily detect which one is the Baal Bitachon and which one is not. And that's super important to understand, because I want you to know that when you keep on working on your Bitachon, it's an internal thing. It portrays for yourself on the outside, but really it's something internal. And that's what we're going to speak about. Perek Hamishi. As to the difference between a person who trusts in Hashem and anybody else, be'inyan his askay b'sibas hatarif, with regard to earning a living. That's what he starts out with. Oima ki habayteach b'elekim yibada mezulas habayteach alav b'shiva inyanim. That the one who trusts in Hashem is distinguished from the one who does not rely on Hashem in seven different ways. And again, Rabbi Victor Miller says over here, it's not very easy to recognize. He gives an example. You take somebody who's a bookbinder. It's not a very popular job. It's not a very popular business. And it's not a very busy business. There aren't a lot of customers. And you take this bookbinder, you see him sitting in his little store, and he has 2-3 customers a day. And he sits there and he's happy and he listens to his shiurim and he smokes his pipe. At home, he has his wife who's absolutely distraught. She's worried about how to pay the bills. She can't go to the grocery. She doesn't have enough money. And now you might look at this guy, this bookbinder, Rabbi Victor Miller says. He says, you might think, wow, I just wish I could be like this guy. This guy has so much emunah and bitachon in Hashem. He's not worried for 1 second. He just sits there, does his thing, and that's it. Rabbi Victor Miller says that's wrong. A person, when it says to do a shtadlus, it doesn't just mean show up and sit down in the office. Oh, I did my part. No, you need to exert your energy. Not entirely. You don't have to break yourself. But you need to do what makes sense. He says people have 9-to-5 jobs. Go do a 9-to-5 job and do it right. Don't do it half-heartedly, right? Do it appropriately. Do it the way it's supposed to be done. So again, going back to the outer picture, you look at this guy, and he brings an example of a bookbinder, and you see the guy is sitting, he's smiling all day, and he's not working so hard, but he has bitachon. That's wrong. That's not bitachon. That's wishful thinking. That's not bitachon at all, and that's not something you should aspire to be. You should aspire to be the person who's happy in every single moment while you're working your 9-to-5, or running your business, or trying to do whatever it is you do. But you can't sit back and say, oh, I have 1 customer today. Okay, great, I did my part. That's it. That's not how this works at all. And then you guys know this from what we went through over the last couple of months in Shaar HaBitachon, once again, the 3rd round, that's something you have to stray away from. You can't be lax, can't put your feet up. You can't hope that Hashem is going to help you out while you do absolutely nothing. You need to do your shtadlus and Hashem is going to do the rest. Now, Chovos HaLevavos says the first difference that a person with bitachon versus a person who lacks bitachon today is acceptance. A trusting person is eches mehem. The first difference is that the one who trusts in Hashem readily accepts Hashem's judgment in all circumstances, even if he has a setback in business that he doesn't, it hurts him. He still trusts Hashem in everything that happens. And such a man gives thanks to Hashem for both the good and the bad. Now, what does this mean, thanking Hashem for both the good and the bad? To give thanks for the good should not be taken for granted whatsoever, because most people, Rabbi Vigdamil says, they don't thank Hashem for the good. They say, I'm just making a living, and it is what it is, and I'm doing what is necessary to get that done. They get their paycheck every week because they earn it. They have enough to pay for their rent and household expenses, and they're not putting away any big money, but they're able to get by. Are they thanking Hashem in those circumstances? No. But a person with Bitachon thanks Hashem when things are going well. So he's saying is, if you're going to be thanking Hashem for both the good and the bad, you need to also start thanking Hashem for the good. Very often, most of us, actually I believe it's, I remember reading a study a while back. I think 65% of the full-time working American works paycheck to paycheck. Now, that paycheck could be anywhere from minimum wage all the way up to, I think they did a study of people over $500,000 or up to $500,000 a year in earning. The point is that you're earning your paycheck, even though you're living paycheck to paycheck. But you're not thanking Hashem for that. Why aren't you thanking Hashem for that person? When a person with Bitachon sees that there are difficulties coming up in business, he doesn't become frightened. He thanks Hashem that up till now, he didn't have those difficulties. So he thanks for the bad too. Whereas a person who's lacking Bitachon becomes dismayed when something threatening comes up. So the person who is able to recognize and thank Hashem for the good that happens to him every single day, even though it might not be $1 million a week that he's earning, but he's making a paycheck every single week, he's getting by every single week, his lights are staying on, the heat is staying on, his car doesn't get taken away from him. Those are the kind of things that you thank Hashem for. And then when you see something coming up that's negative, maybe something that is working against you, you have an impact on your business, your job, or whatever it is, you're able to go there with full Bitachon. You're able to go there with the idea of thanking Hashem, till now you helped me out, I trust you're going to help me out further as well. And Rabbi Victor, and Chovos HaLevavos says, Kamosha Amma, as it says, when Ivo's children died, he said, Hashem nasav, Hashem lakach, Yishem, Hashem avarech, Hashem has given me these children, Hashem has taken away these children, and blesses the name of Hashem. Iyov said this at the beginning of his troubles. Iyov went through a lot of hardships, and when he still had his emotional balance, at that point he was willing to accept whatever Hashem threw at him. And that's what he said, Hashem gives and Hashem takes, and blesses Hashem. He said, Baruch Hashem. And then it says, it brings another pasuk, Chesed or Mishpat Ashira, of kindness or judgment do I sing. I sing praise to whatever you do kindness to me, or you do judgment, that is. So basically you're praising Hashem for whatever Hashem does. Punishment as well, he says. I'm going to sing to you either way because I know that whatever you do is for my benefit. And that's the big difference between a Baal Bitachon and a person who lacks Bitachon today. Someone who's living and breathing Bitachon understands that everything that Hashem does for him is for his benefit. And even though we don't see it that way, it's still something for our benefit. If Hashem does what seems to us as kindness, I shall sing. And if he does to us what seems to be as judgment or punishment, I shall also sing, because we understand that judgment or that punishment is not something that he's mad at us, he's upset at us. He's there to build our character. Hashem is doing it out of kindness, out of love. Hashem doesn't punish us because he's mad at us. Hashem punishes us because he wants to coax us in the right direction. He wants to encourage us to do the right thing. Va'amru, a person should say a blessing for the bad just as he says a blessing for the good. In both ways you have to understand. Now when people thank for the bad today, they're doing it only as a formality. People are not doing it really with the heart. They're only doing it because it's a mitzvah to make the bracha. But when the author of Chovos HaLevavos, when the Rabbeinu Bechaya wrote this, he speaks about thanking for the bad. He means the person is thanking Hashem because he knows it's actually good. The mindset over there is not just, it's a formality, you have to thank Hashem. No. You need to internalize and understand in your mind that Hashem is doing this for your benefit. You might not see how you losing your income is for your benefit, but it absolutely is. You don't understand these things because you're not on the level of God. Only God can understand these things. The non-trusting person, let's go to the flip side over here. The non-trusting person, but a person who does not trust in Hashem, he pats himself on the back when things go well, and he blames Hashem when his luck works against him. This person boasts when good things are happening to him, but he's angry at Hashem when bad things are happening. He says, look how wealthy I am. I have a good and strong body. I'm born with a strong physique. I'm able to take care of myself. I'm smart. I'm great at this business. I built this company. Look what I did. And he gives himself all that credit. As it says, the wicked man praises himself for his lust. And the robber blesses himself, angering Hashem. That he says, look, I was able to steal without getting caught. The man who is acting dishonestly and unjustly is proud of his achievements, but Hashem is not proud of him. Rather Hashem is angry at him at that point. But this man who lacks trust in Hashem becomes angry at Hashem when he is struck with misfortune. When this person who ran this multi-billion-dollar company, all of a sudden things start going bad, he goes, oh God, what did you do to me? What do you mean God? Why is God all of a sudden your partner? Till now you were telling everyone you owned 100% ownership in your success. And now all of a sudden, when things are going bad, you make God a partner in your misfortune? If everything is going bad, you bring God into this picture? What happened all of a sudden? And that's the difference between a Baal Bitachon and a person who lacks Bitachon today. The Baal Bitachon, whether good or bad, he understands it's all Hashem, and he thanks Hashem every single day. The person who lacks Bitachon, how he carries himself is, when it's good, it's him. I'm the one who made it happen. But when it's bad, he looks up to Hashem and says, oh, Hashem is mad at me. Hashem is wronging me. Well, where did Hashem come into this picture? You didn't have him when you started the company. When you started the company, it was all you. When you built the company, it was all you. When you became rich, it was all you. Now all of a sudden you lose your money. What happened to you? Why are you not taking any fault for this? Why aren't you the same way you took 100% credit in the upside? You're not taking 100% fault or a liability on the downside. Isn't that how it works? That's the difference. That's the difference between a Baal Bitachon and a person who lacks Bitachon today. That's the first of the 7 ways. Today, I have this beautiful, beautiful Dvar Torah that actually my colleague, Michael Kahn, actually helped me put together. There's a huge question. What was the big nace of Hanukkah? Is it 7 days, 8 days, 1 day? What was the big nace? We know because the oil took a long time to make, took 8 days. Well, we had enough oil for 1 day, so really the nace is only 7 days, not 8 days. There's farm, there's many Dvar Torahs and pshatim on this very, very famous question. But when the Yidden walked into the Beis HaMikdash after the Romans had destroyed, they weren't walking into a beautiful place anymore. It wasn't a place of glory. What they were walking into was ruin, desecration, defamation, lost. They lost everything. The menorah, which was the symbol of light, and still is till today, the clarity and the connection to Hashem, that was dark. It was burnt out. There was nothing there. And they searched through the entire Beis HaMikdash, through all the wreckage, and they finally found one small flask of pure oil, enough for a single day. And they all knew the same thing, that it takes 8 days to produce the oil. That's the whole big question of the nace, right? So the obvious question over here, in this share, in the Bitachon share, Rava, why light the menorah at all? If I only have enough for 1 day, what's going to happen in the next 7 days? Why start? Why not just wait till the oil shows up and we'll start then? Why light oil today? From a perspective of Bitachon, what were they thinking? I can tell you what they weren't thinking. They weren't thinking, okay, let's gamble and hope for a miracle, because that's wishful thinking. And they weren't thinking Hashem owes us something, right? He just destroyed, he owes us a reward. No, because that's not what faith is about. Hashem doesn't owe you anything. And we just finished learning about that part. What they were thinking, though, was something so much deeper and so much more demanding of a person. They were thinking like this: Hashem commanded us to light the menorah today. Tomorrow is not our responsibility. The mitzvah of lighting the menorah is not to make sure that it burns for 8 days. The mitzvah is to light it when you are commanded to light the menorah. And today, they had enough oil to light for that day, and they were commanded to light today, and so they did so. They had oil for today, so they lit today. They didn't try to solve the 8-day problem. They didn't freeze up because they couldn't see the ending. That wasn't the idea. They focused on the question, on one question only. What does Hashem want from us right now, in the moment? What does Hashem want? And that is the absolute essence of Bitachon, something that we've spoken about so much over the course of the last year since we started this year together. Bitachon is not believing that everything will magically work out for itself. Bitachon is knowing where your responsibility ends and where Hashem's job begins. Our job, we know this, is our shtadlus, our effort is our job. It's our obedience to Hashem, is doing what Hashem asks us to do. And it's doing what we can from our part. That's what the shtadlus is. Not sitting with your feet up, but doing what we can from our part. But the future, the outcome, and that belongs only to Hashem. That's Hashem's job. And here is something that changes everything. They didn't light because they believed in a miracle. They lit because they believed in Hashem. That was the big deal. We learned this at the beginning of Bitachon, of Shaar Bitachon. It's irresponsible to do something trusting in a miracle. We spoke about that. We know that that's the inappropriate way to do it. The Yavanim, the Yidden over there at that time, they didn't do it because they believed in miracles. They did it because they trusted in Hashem. The miracle came after the Bitachon was put into place, not before. Think about this carefully. If they would have said, we don't have enough oil for the long term, so there's no point in starting, that would actually be a lack of bitachon. And that speaks to us today. That mindset says, if I can't see the end, then why start at all? And we've all been there. We've all said that. We've all had different parts of our life, different struggles that we've said that, and we want to just let go. But what does bitachon teach us? Bitachon teaches us don't let go. You don't need to see the end, ever. In any situation, in any struggle, any even good thing, you don't need to see the end result in order to take the next step. In truth, the greatest miracle of Hanukkah wasn't that the oil burned for 8 days. The greatest miracle of Hanukkah, the way I see it, in this year, in Bitachon, is that the Yidden lit the oil altogether. When they were so down on themselves, they were so, for lack of better words, and pun intended, burnt out, they still lit the menorah. They still had true Bitachon in Hashem, that they still had to do their part. And this speaks directly to all of us. So often we say, once I have clarity on the situation, that's when I'm going to start, or once I figure out, the whole, I have to put the plan together, I'm going to start at that point. Hanukkah teaches us something else. Hanukkah teaches us, light the oil with what you have today. What do you know today in your situation? What do you have to work with today? That's all you ask for. You're living right now. Now is the moment. You can figure it out now. Yes, you're supposed to plan. Yes, you're supposed to try. Yes, you're supposed to do all those things. But set that motion into action. Don't just sit around and plan and plan and plan. Just because you can't see the end result means that you should let it go. There's a famous book. It's called A Students Work for C Students. You know why? You know why A students work for C students? Because A students wrote the whole plan and they saw that it didn't make any sense. There was no financial sense in it. It would fail. The business would fail. The C student wasn't smart enough to build out the entire plan, so he tried. Eventually, a C student won at something, right? He built a company that works. Now he needs now he needs lawyers, and he needs accountants, and he needs the smart people to build his company even further. That's why A students work for C students. The C student is the biggest Baal Bitachon. He just goes with it. Bitachon isn't believing that Hashem will do what I want. It's doing what Hashem wants and trusting that the outcome is going to be favorable for you. And when you do that, you don't just light your menorah, metaphorically. You create a space for the actual miracle that you're looking for to happen. Just like the Yidden, what they thought first was Bitachon. Let me light the menorah with the oil that I have today, and then they'll worry about everything else afterwards. That's Hashem's problem. The miracle came afterwards. when you do your hashtadlis and you put in your part, your bitachon in Hashem, you open up a spot for Hashem to create miracles. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today. Have a wonderful, a beautiful Shabbos Chanukah. And as always, I love each and every one of you.